needs to be told on my life. That is the only reason why I'm sharing my stories, because I'm hoping to help somebody along the way to not give up no matter what. Hit me with your best shot. Fire away. Love you, Mama. We're gonna be all right.
Wow, y'all. Good afternoon. How are you guys doing today?
Hey, how are you doing?
I'm good. I got to tell you, every time we do this, that countdown makes my heart pound.
Mine too. Mine too.
It's a good introduction. Yeah, it's a good introduction.
Yeah.
So I'm Jen with Two of a Crime, and I have these two lovely ladies here today. Do you want to introduce yourself?
Hey, I'm Mary, and I am with Justice for Heather Turner. So glad to be here. I'm excited to hear more about Natalie's story, and let's do a deep dive on that.
Hi, I'm Jen, and I am the victim advocate for Natalie Jones. One part of her amazing, resilient community, army. We are fighting for justice for her. We're coming up on the 5-year mark of her disappearance. As of July 5th, people like to say the 4th, but I'm going to say in all reality, it's the 5th of 2020 when she vanished, and coming up on 5 years now. And I just want to say thank you so much, per usual, for me to try and go up the South. Justice for Heather Turner. Mary is such a godsend. It has truly been a blessing getting to know you, to work with you, and see, just that good people doing good things for the right reasons, and fighting the good fight. And Jen here with Two of a Crime. Amazing Jen. She's the people say I'm spicy, but I think Jen is like three times. If I'm a jalapeno, she's a habanero. So
yes, ma'am.
There it is. Yeah. So happy to be here and get into this.
So we're going to talk about some OG information, I guess, that we haven't talked about in a while. So Jen, take us back to the beginning. How did Tom Smith and the Sleuths get involved in this case?
Oh my gosh. So this is such a, I hate that I have to give these people the 15 minutes of fame that they so desperately are craving, because I don't like giving people that power. I always take it back to my favorite 80s movie, The Labyrinth, Jennifer Connelly, you have no power over me. So that's very important here. I don't like giving them, this hour, but unfortunately they play such a big, interesting, and kind of mysterious piece of this that this is going to be an interesting listen for many people, right? It's going to be interesting because a lot of us from Natalie's community, our current community as is, we remember all of this because we were there from the beginning days and weeks and months leading up to Natalie being found on October 6, 2020, under suspicious circumstances. Sorry, detective, or should I call you Boogeyman, as you're referred to sometimes by yourself? Yeah, I'm going there. So this story, I want everyone to kind of go back there with me. When Natalie Jones first went missing back in 2020, it made local headlines. And then from there, it went kind of, I guess you would call it like regional headlines, like Atlanta and other surrounding areas throughout Georgia and neighboring states. And then it went nationwide, right? So it went, Nancy Grace covered it, Dr. Phil, I think People, if I'm not mistaken, several other really high, Daily Mail, that's global, right? So Natalie became worldwide headlines at that point. But if we start off from July the 5th, 6th, 7th, 8th, 9th, 10th, 11th, that's where Tom Smith and this team came in. So for everyone to understand this, you need to know that Natalie's story really started off, and the groups and communities that became a part of Natalie's story, they were all on Facebook. So there was no TikTok, really. There was no Instagram. There were these social media apps and platforms, but everything, all things community-based, they lived on Facebook, right? So I guess, to really get an understanding of this, we have to rewind. We have to go back. I'm presenting today, and I'm going to be sharing some some things that have never been seen and what we have uncovered as a community, because I'm very curious, as you guys are watching this and those that rewatch this, I'd love to hear your thoughts, especially for those of you that have never followed along with this case, that if you weren't there following in these community groups and pages on Facebook back in the day, I would love an outsider's perspective, because you're going to have a different take on it than what we remember. But for many of us, we have to go back way, way before Natalie. Okay. So this group of people, and we're going to be talking about two, I guess you would say, groups, or a group of people behind an alias, and also other people. So I want to go all the way back, way before Natalie Jones, and start with Casey Anthony. We all remember this case. She was last seen on June 16th, 2008, and her remains were found on December 11th, 2008. The location, very key here. I want you to bookmark that mentally: Orlando, Florida. We all most of us remember the Casey Anthony case, right? It was worldwide headlines and hugely publicized. So we all remember you had Casey Anthony, and then you had her attorney, Jose Baez, right? So that's one part of this. But then you have Casey Anthony's parents, George and Cindy Anthony. Now, two of the people that you see below here are what we believe are part of, air quote, this alias that we're talking about tonight, Tom Smith, and the team of what we think are, I wouldn't really call them sleuths. I would call them a crisis team, in my opinion. And I'm just going to go ahead and preface this and say that this whole presentation and my opinions are that of my own, and this is for educational, entertainment purposes. But what I can back up as fact is that the two people underneath George and Cindy Anthony are embedded within the Casey Anthony case. The first person that you see here is Dominic Casey, who was a private investigator who had letters of engagement from both the Anthonys and Casey Anthony. This guy is a PI, has a weird accent. Do you guys remember Madonna when she was trying to sound British? Sometimes this guy sounds English and then sometimes he sounds American. I'm not really quite sure what to make of this dude, but other than, he's a PI. Brad Conway, that you see talking to Jose Baez, Casey Anthony's attorney in the picture, he is, I should say, or was, an Orlando-based attorney, wheelchair-bound attorney, who's recently been on TikTok wearing a big old cowboy hat. Super cute, Brad. Not. He was retained and hired on by the Anthonys, not Casey Anthony, but he was retained as counsel for George and Cindy Anthony. He later, during the trial, had to recuse himself due to some certain things that were going on. I'm not going to waste my time getting into all of that, but I want you guys to pay close attention to Dominic and Brad. Okay. There are 3 more people that I want you guys to be aware of. There is a woman by the name of Jeanette, who is an air quote psychic, who is an associate of the man you see below her, first name Luke, who is a former naval intelligence officer. And then you have Diceport Deb, or Little Deb, whatever she wants to call herself, associate of Dominic Casey. So we're going to link this together. If we go back, right, pay attention to Dominic Casey. He's the private investigator. Brad Conway, recused attorney for the Anthonys, okay? Deb is on paper in leaked emails from the Casey Anthony case, being an air quote associate of Dominic Casey, the PI. Luke Phillips and Jeanette Lucas are in those same leaked emails in the Casey Anthony case as being associates. Both have northeastern ties to one of the states that we keep talking about quite often. Jeanette is very interesting to me because I think most of us in the 90s remember the whole Miss Cleo thing and, that whole big thing. Jeanette Lucas has been on Nancy Grace. She's been on several different, she's been on many different like YouTubes and like things, but she never shows her face, which is kind of puzzling to me considering like most psychics do. Or, if they're doing entertainment stuff and doing media stuff. So I'm not sure. She looks like she has a lovely face, for a Golden Girl. So I'm not sure why she's not showing her face. But her and Luke are closely tied together. And then Deb and Dominic Casey are air quote tied together per alleged, I'm going to say alleged, but per these public leaked emails that are found all over the web that show email correspondence. It's basically email threads and comms of Luke talking to Jeanette, talking to Deb, talking to Brad. They're all in there. So that groups all of these people in one bubble. Does that make sense to everyone? I hope that makes sense, right?
Yes, it does.
Okay. So the next piece of that is when we talk about Tom Smith. Tom Smith was an alias. So I'll go into like a definition there. An alias is essentially an account created by a person that is not who they really are per se. Or, it's not that you're falsely advertising yourself as like, I'm really Tom Hanks or whomever, but it's just, it's an alias account. So in the early days of Natalie going missing, as you can see dated here, July 11th, 2020, July 18th, 2020, July 18th, 2020, and so on, this alias popped up in the I would call it the official, air quote, Natalie group on Facebook. It was called Bring Natalie Home. Now, this group is the admins that ran this group were a questionable female sibling of Natalie's who we have our eyebrow raised and have for quite some time. It was managed by her. It was managed by the alleged predator's wife, that being the man that Natalie exposed in her private group and alleges what he did to her when she was a teenager. We deemed this person, in our opinion, very suspect, very questionable, and we don't know why he hasn't been looked into further. So his wife, who also went to school with Natalie and the sister, were both admins over this group. And on July 11th, so again, let's go back and think about timeline here. Natalie goes missing theoretically on the 4th, phone goes dark on the 5th, and then July 11th, here comes this mysterious person hiding behind a chipmunk, avatar as a profile photo. That kind of shows their age, in my opinion. And they start making these super long-winded posts, right? Tom, and when I say Tom, I want you guys to look at it like when you see a name, you think it's one person. But in all reality here, an alias can be multiple people. Now, I'm not saying what is or what isn't. I'm just simply stating my opinions and observations and our community's opinions and observations where we are now in 2025. So to wrap your head around that and to understand it a little bit better, let's make an example here, right? So I'm Jen, I'm Justice for Natalie Jones. If I created a Tom Smith alias, I could give that login information to Mary here with Justice for Heather Turner, and I could give it to Jen with Two of a Crime, and we could all be logged into that account, typing. One of us could be the air quote voice, like where if we ever spoke on camera, it could be Mary, or it could be me, or it could be Jen. So this is actually quite smart when you think about it from a potential crisis team perspective. Come in, muddy the water, see what people know, see what people are saying, steer a narrative, control the narrative, and spin it if you need to. Again, I'm not saying this is what is, I'm just saying that these are my opinions. So this Tom Smith alias came in and started writing these super long-winded posts on Natalie's group. Now, after this Bring Natalie Home group formed, a few others, actually, I would say several other groups popped up, right? There was Natalie Jones' disappearance. What happened to Natalie Jones? What secrets lie in the something another. There were several different groups that were popping up. And Tom, or air quote, the people behind Tom, would bounce around these various groups and post things. Okay. So a lot of us in the early days, we thought that whomever is behind this Tom Smith alias, I could tell, being from corporate world and being an executive, like I can see when someone is cut from a different cloth, so to speak, of higher intelligence, the way that they wrote certain things like that. Tom always went in on like certain coordinates. You need to be looking at this, you need to be looking at that. And I think many of us back in the day, we were on this wild goose chase. We thought that this was someone undercover, right? Many of us thought that. Some people didn't trust who this person was. They thought it's someone nefarious. They're working for the defense. And many of us couldn't wrap our heads around that. We're like, this is someone trying to help, They love to write. They love to see people respond to their novel posts, which, is just a little yawn worthy at times, because like, who has time to sit there and read all this crap? But many of us continued the conversations with him. We talked to this person behind the scenes, or people behind the scenes. And what we learned is that Tom, and I'm going to go back, Deb, were part of a group, if that makes sense. They knew each other. So what we heard is that Tom and Deb had worked on previous cases together, that they had Mindy Lee, Kelsey Barrett, Colorado, like all of these other cases. And so, we're just kind of like, okay, here's a group of like, we know that sleuths are a real thing. We know that sometimes people prefer to stay in the shadows due to nefarious people, or for safety reasons or whatever. That was my personal feeling. Like, I'm not mad at it. Do your thing. But what unfolded after that is, a a lot of drama. Okay. So here's some more screenshots from Tom's posting, and then this group, the True Crime Portal for the True Bad Branding, True Crime Portal by the People's Team for Justice. Okay. This was a group that was formed, and it was formed by a group of women, and one of the admins, let me back up, none other than this Deb, the same Deb that was affiliated and mentioned in the leaked emails related to Casey Anthony. This is this person, 100% confirmed as far as I can see. And so this group formed, and they started kind of latching on to the Natalie because it was just so huge. The coverage was so big, and everyone was just bouncing around. What's being speculated about now? What's being theorized? What's this? What's that? So we many of us learned very early that Tom or whomever or who all ever is behind this person is affiliated with Deb. Those two went hand in hand. Now, here's where we get into some interesting stuff. Back in August of 2020, there was this online spat, if you will, between allegedly. Now, smoke and mirrors, I don't know. Was this deliberate? Was this intentional? I'm not really sure. There was a spat that many of us from the old days remember, that Tom and Deb had a blowout. Are you guys following along so far? Am I making sense? Jen, Mary?
Yes, you are.
Yes, you are.
Okay. So many of us remember that there was like, oh, we're not dealing with Tom anymore. He sent us a dead lead. We heard, not through Deb, we heard that, and I can't remember if Tom put it out there or if someone in the group put it out there, that Natalie's car had been spotted on Charlie B. Johnson Road in Hogansville, that there were kids on a four-wheeler, her phone was in the car, cigarettes in the back seat, all this stuff. Well, this came directly from Natalie Jones' case file. The detective saved this information, right? Now, where things start getting a little peculiar, in my opinion, having, all of us here have reviewed Natalie's case file, like we know the whole backstory behind it, but for anyone else that's listening in, this is where things started to get weird. So as you can see here, because I want to back up everything that I'm showing to be, as presented, Deb here, who went by the name of Sunny Deb, so allegedly, Tom received a tip from someone somewhere about about Natalie's car being found on Charlie B. Johnson Road. So, and he gives the information to Deb. Now, this is how the story is told. Deb then contacts this, I don't want to call him a journalist. I know many of you locals like the dude, goes by the name of Russ. I don't consider him a journalist because of him saying, you have to trust me. No journalist would ever say that, first of all. But, again, don't know the dude, don't mean to judge him, but, he up and left right after Natalie's case and is exploring the United States, whatever he's doing. But she sends this message to him. Okay. Why would you not send that to law enforcement is question number one. If you think that there's corruption involving law enforcement, why would you not send that then to the GBI or the FBI? Question number two. Why would you, Deb, send this information to a non-qualified amateur journalist who runs a local little paper in Heard County? Why would you not send this to law enforcement? Is my first question. Well, question number 1, 2, and 3. Knowing what we know now about Charlie B. Johnson Road, so this is where it gets weird. Charlie B. Johnson Road in Hogansville is kind of like on, I don't know if the road actually crosses Coweta and Heard County, but we've been gathering intel from many people, many locals that live around there. And what they have stated is that Charlie B. Johnson Road is there's like some nice houses, there's some sketch houses, there are some people on drugs, meth, that get dropped off out there. There's a lot of land. That's where a certain detective used to rent from a federal employee that no one knows out there, which is incredibly weird to me, that has a minority youth camp that no one knows about, which is a little weird to me personally, in my opinion. Not so humbly. Okay, thanks, bye. It's like, is this real life? Like, what is going on Charlie B. Johnson Road is what I'm curious about. And like, why do people find this normal when it's not normal? And two, I'm getting spicy. You guys knew it was going to happen. It's time for all of this to come out because we've had about enough of it. We've had enough of it. Charlie B. Johnson Road, you guys may have remembered the live that we did a while back, hosted here, where we talked about Natalie's cell phone pings and a ghost ping. There were several ghost pings, which we're looking into further, that hit a tower that is closest to her home. That's also right there by Charlie B. Johnson Road. Like, all of it is super close. And I want to just go into this for a brief second. That tower is owned by a man who has a residence in another county that Natalie's politically connected tech ex went over there by his property on July the 5th at around 7 p.m. Why? Why exactly are you going over there, bud? Just a little curious. But anyways, that's not what this live is about. So Deb here sends this to a amateur, non-confirmed journalist, whatever. And why would you not send this to law enforcement? You don't trust local law enforcement? Got it. Send it to the GBI. You don't trust the GBI? Got it. Send it to the FBI. Why would you send it to this guy? Are you trying to taunt a detective, letting them know that you know something? And if so, how do you know that? Is my fourth question. A lot to stew on regarding that. So I want to get into Tom Smith, Luke, and the psychic. As I mentioned before, Tom Smith, we believe, is not one person. It's a team, it's a group per se of all the people mentioned before. In the screenshot that you see here to the left is Tom Smith talking to me right before he ended up blocking me and leaving the group and going on with his anti-Kelly Pickler group or whatever they were trying to do. I got some red flags that I ignored that I'm now bringing up. First of all, why are you calling me babe? Like, yeah, I am a babe. I own that. I am. But I'm not your babe. Like, I wouldn't touch you with a 10-foot pole. Let's just get that clear. Okay. But one of the things that we found out is in the leaked emails and also in news articles, where there was this one in the middle that you're seeing here from Newsblaze that was talking about the Anthony case and how the psychic Jeanette Lucas got this vision of where Kaylee was. And that was close. That was like, you guys have to understand, this psychic and where Kaylee was right. If you look at Tom's text style here, hey babe, ... I will be available, space, ... space, if you give me a 24-hour heads up, space, ... Now go over here and look at the Newsblaze article in the center here. And that, Lucas,
A
is my email, ...
or
and
6.
then is my email ... And then you've got here at the bottom her referencing Luke space ... space words. Typing styles are like handwriting. They're kind of unique, right? So that's just an observation that we made, and why we believe that you might have one person typing as Tom, you might have the voice of Tom being an attorney, and stuff like that. So I hope that makes sense. Now I want to get into Natalie's story, her private group. This is where she started making videos in 2019, a year before she ended up coming up unalived and missing. This was a private group that she created on Facebook where she started sharing her testimonials. This was her telling her story. And she named people. She talked about the things that she had been through in life, the trials, the tribulations, abuse, grooming alleged, and everything else. And I want to talk a little bit about after Natalie went missing. So on August 6th of 2020, an alias by the name of Katrina approved Sunny Deb's group, or approved her request into the group. Sunny Deb then approved an alias Pammy Dew into the group. Then she approved a Chris Nisper into the group, into Natalie's private group, and then she declined one of her admins in the group. Okay, so we have a paper trail for the record, because that's how we roll over here. Key activity about Natalie's private group. Many people were trying to get in. Many people were trying to do this, that, and the other. So key activity here, names of people on the right and with photos. You've got Ira. He was added by Jonathan Lawrence, Natalie's politically connected tech ex, on the exact day that Natalie and Jonathan broke up. Why did Jonathan do that? Was it because he wanted Ira to see the videos that Natalie mentioned him in? On that exact same day, Jonathan also added Thomas, who is one of Natalie's exes. He is affiliated loosely at some point in time with the alleged predator that Natalie exposed. He added both of those two on the exact same day, on December 28th of 2019. Why? Vindictive little shit, isn't he? Then you have Dan, the Heard County Sheriff's Office lead investigator, who was added by Natalie's half-sister. Okay. Chris, we can backpedal. Chris Nisper was added by Deb. And then we've got Deb that joined 7 months ago before the detective. A little strange, a little peculiar. Our observations is that the aliases / sleuths, Tom Smith and Deb from the Facebook group TPT4J, the People's Team for Justice, they jumped into Natalie's case within a week of her vanishing. Allegedly, Tom was approached by, air quote, a family member. They gained access into Natalie's private Facebook group, steered a narrative, sent people down wild goose chases, and turned to dirty soap opera tactics. Okay. After Natalie Jones had been found on October 6, 2020, nearly 93 days later, or 93 days to be exact. When Natalie was found, many of the groups, they went silent. They went dark. They, I think, either wanted to give the families a chance to grieve and heal and go through the funeral arrangements and all of that stuff. And then some of them just lost interest. And then some of them were probably nefarious and just decided to bow out because they had already accomplished what they accomplished. I don't know. I mean, these are just my opinions. But what happened around, there was another group that popped up around, it was right at, or it may have been like right at around the time that Natalie was found. And then it just vanished in the very tail end of 2020, I think, or 2021. I can't remember, but Tom was still there. He was still posting here and there. And it was always Jonathan, it's always Jonathan. Many of us agree that, you know, most of the circumstantial evidence, and like Jonathan he's a tech guru. He's politically connected via his family. He had motive to get rid of Natalie. She would have testified against him in the case and in the trial that he's now incarcerated for. We didn't know at the time if Natalie was in fact supposed to be on the witness list, but we now know that she was. She was on the witness list. So there is a lot of motive looking at Jonathan, 100% motive. But we didn't know what else to do after that. So what Tom did is he got a civilian, another person that was like an admin on that group, to put her name on this change.org petition, which is wonderful. It sounded wonderful. It looked great. Like he wrote it. It's his style of writing. You can see the ... there. He got this person to put her name on it. And we submitted it. We submitted it to the Tri-County Judicial Court Circuit, Herb Cranford's office. And it caught a wave of publicity again. But what we've learned since then is what's alarming to me, and how Tom, or the people behind Tom, chose to conduct themselves with us, this newly formed community of Natalie, or for Natalie, I should say. We submitted the petition. We had hope. We had just all of this like second wind. And then the bottom drops out. I personally I am the one person, along with our community, who provided circumstantial evidence, screenshots, whatever data that they could. I built out a presentation. I started working with the assistant district attorney of Herb Cranford's office, and they closed Natalie's case file on December 15th, 2022. And shortly after that, they basically said, sorry, you know, like, we're not going to do a grand jury. We can't do a grand jury. You can't impanel a special grand jury via online petition. So why would you even do that, Tom? Why would you suggest that to someone when that can't be done in the first place? So we got the case file, although we believe very strongly it's not the entire case file. I'm not sure why you guys wanted to omit that. But we started canvassing some things, and some things were shared with Tom Smith, and we started talking, and we started being sent down wild goose chases. You need to check over here by the pole, check over there, run here. Oh, Natalie was out here. She was out here swimming at some swinger's house right up the road, who didn't even live there, nor was the pool even built. Oh, there's, this guy that lives there. Like, this is his arrest. No, it's the wrong guy, Tom. Like, we're not incompetent, if you hear this, and I hope you do. So at some point in time, Natalie's mother, Elaine, made a post. I can't remember what it was about, but Tom goes on there and basically makes the statement that you see on the right. There was another version that he redacted and changed. Well, he changed it, But he was basically, I'm going to read this out loud. He said, Elaine, if you do that, your daughter will never get justice. Her killers will never be identified. Natalie's path to justice goes through the Heard County PD and only the Heard County PD. There is no other path. Space, ... Wink, wink, nudge, nudge. Regardless of what others tell you. Information here redacted due to sensitivity to identification of nefarious players. Do pray over this. How like you, Tom. And then you see my response here on the left. I couldn't see, this was, I couldn't get the whole screenshot, but my response to him is, and exactly how would Natalie's killers be identified if Heard County PD is part of the cover-up and corruption? Tom, do tell. As I previously stated to you, we have no problem with non-corrupt law enforcement officer in that county, but it's also going to the FBI, the GBI, and the DA's office, and it did as of yesterday. So what this was about is basically Tom he said that he took some data, like he took the RTT data and he figured out like this is exactly what happened and what should be looked into. And what happened here is I told Tom, show me your work, right? It's like a company. I'm the CEO, Tom. Sorry, you're the COO or whatever you wanted to be. Show me your work, bud. You want to talk about how you've got this and you're the one of the few people in the country that can analyze this or that or whatever. Show me your work. You should have no problem showing me your work. And if you don't want to show me your work, then you're a big boy. Why don't you take this to the detective? Why don't you take this to the GBI? Why don't you take this to the FBI? I took it to the GBI. I took it to an FBI agent and the DA's office. That's not obstruction. I did my due diligence, bud. I took what I believe that we could back up. I'm not taking your work. And yes, I consulted with all of our admins and all of our moderators and all of our community. He never showed us his work. And again, to my point, if you feel so confident that we've had this information for 8 weeks, blah, 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 like, why don't you take it? Just like this, you're using people to do your work. Why are you using people? Is it because you don't want to be exposed for who you really are? Is that like, what is the motive there? What is it, Tom and team? What is it? Very curious about that. And I've had enough. Our community has had enough of you. And if you do hear this, and for all the people that had their suspicions that we defended you against, consider this the carrot. You don't want the stick, sweetheart. Karma is a queen and she just had a seat on her throne and I'm sitting on it. Sorry. That's all I really have. Do you guys have, I mean, I would love to hear your thoughts about this. I would love to hear questions, like Jen, Mary, open. What do you think about this whole thing? Is it just a meddlesome group of people, or do you think that there's something else there?
No, I 100% think that they're crisis teams. And I think that they're brought in for various different reasons, whatever they're trying to muddle or confuse or mix up. I think that, especially nowadays, social media is so strong that someone's got to steer it.
Yeah. Do you believe that Brad Conway is the voice of Tom?
I 100% do.
Same.
100%.
Same. I agree. And the thing here is, who would have, now let's entertain this in our opinion. Who would have the means, the motive, or well, we know who all would have the motive, but who would have the financial means to hire a group? And they don't have to, sit behind a they don't have to sit in a business complex, behind in cubes. And it's like, crisis team, hire us on. They could be unofficial people. But if you look at each of these people, someone that proclaims themselves to be a psychic, who's been on Nancy Grace, Brad Conway, an attorney, nobody knows, nobody knows him, whatever. A PI, nobody knows him. This lady, Diceport Deb, nobody knows her. Like, I'm being petty. And, the thing about it is, if you're good, and I always say this, if your intentions were good and you are a good person, then you should understand my frustration, because I'm pissed. We are pissed as a community because you have put us through the ringer when we're out here trying to do the right thing. And so this is karma. It's karma.
Has anyone ever heard the term crisis actor?
Yep.
Okay, so you see them all the time. Like place like audience, or people can come to try out to be an extra,
Right.
that type of thing.
Yeah.
I would 100% think that these people are just playing roles.
Monica CIA, that's a very I think with Luke being a former naval intelligence officer, it makes a lot of sense. If Monica, and think of it like this, I see them like a C-suite. You have a CEO, you have a COO, a CFO, a CTO, whatever. You have a group of people that are skilled at doing different things for whatever the reason. And they were all embedded in the Casey Anthony case and various other cases. And then Natalie Jones. And why? If Natalie really OD'd as they're trying to steer it, because that's coming directly from law enforcement, at this point, she OD'd. Well, TBD on that one, Heard County. Like, who has the motive and the means to hire them on?
What's the motive from the CIA?
What would be the motive? Well, if you look at Jonathan Lawrence, I often wondered if he wasn't, like, I don't know how to say it without saying it. Like his father has connections up to Governor Kemp. Like again, his counsel is a Georgia senator that defended him during this trial. His incorporators on his business are Lynn Westmoreland, a washed up former U.S. House of Representative, crooked as crap from what I've heard, and several others. Now, again, I mean, those are just my opinions. All of this, and then also you have an alleged predator who is allegedly a millionaire, who I believe who's deep in with some dark stuff, and is just Michael Jackson, Peter Pan complexing his presence to be like this pillar of the community, when we all know that, that's not reality here, because nobody just takes in broken home white girls for no reason and sleeps with half of the Jones girls, in my opinion. So it's been said by himself and TJ, Natalie's stepsister. I'm sick of it. And ironically, the connection to Orlando, he had a condo there in Orlando. Just throwing that out there. I don't know. And one thing I will say, Jen, before you go in, when we used to talk to Tom, he never entertained the predator. Never, like, anytime anything was said about him, he would pivot over to someone else. It's Jonathan. Why couldn't it be the predator?
Interesting.
Why not? So it makes me wonder. And then Mary, at some point, I would love to hear, because I know that you have some connections, so to speak, and both Brad and Jeanette Lucas have been on Nancy Grace.
Well, part of what frustrates me about this whole situation is, when somebody is getting involved in a case, it's not just a game. there's seriousness. And yes, Natalie's case went global. It went national. Everybody was picking it up. The pink car was everywhere. Um, but it wasn't a game. And like you were saying, so many groups were formed. And then here comes, Deb and Brad and these other folks that are coming in there. Then you're saying, hey, give me your information. If I'm going to present this, show me where you got this. Um, the bottom line on any of these cases, for all the sleuths that are out there, for all the people who truly care about the cases that they're working on and they're doing a deep dive, I'm going to tell you they're not going to have a problem 100% being transparent with the people they trust to show their documentation, to where they're coming from on this case, to where they're getting their ideas and their beliefs of what happened. It's building because they've done a deep dive, but they haven't just done it on gossip. They've done it on facts, which is what you've done on Natalie's case. It's what Jen's done on Brittany's case. It's what we've done, our community has done on Heather's case. And why would he not want to, excuse me, why would Brad not want to give you his documentation, show you what he has done? He's working closely with you in this. That's where the red flags come up, and that's where the frustration builds. And that's where it's like, who do you trust and who do you not trust? And that frustration goes all the way up. And then there's mistrust with law enforcement, with things that they're doing. Then there's mistrust with GBI. Then there's mistrust with FBI. And then you see the governor allegedly is appointing these people to different positions. And so then there's questions of how far up does this go? And where does this go? And where does this end? And you have every right to be angry, Jen, in our opinion, my opinion, um, because you have given this your all. And then you've got people that are coming in that are just kind of bouncing a ball in your direction and going, yeah, do this, do that, but I'm not going to show you where I'm coming from. And, then it's the betrayal. And I just don't understand, because people pour their heart and souls. People like the three of us and many other people. I'm just speaking for. There's many other people that are truly giving everything they have internally to stand up and speak for a victim who cannot speak for themselves anymore. And the other people who come in and just muddy the waters, it does cause anger and frustration. So that's my point of view. I say bravo to you for the deep dive that you have done, how much you have uncovered, and your ability to speak out and to be Natalie's voice. I couldn't be more honored to be on this panel with the two of you today, and to support you with Natalie. So thanks for that. That's just my share. I didn't mean to run on.
No,
No, I totally agree with that. Second all that.
yeah. I mean, I think that it's a double-edged sword, because I don't want to give these people, it's like I said in the beginning, I don't want to give them the 15 minutes that they're chasing after. And I think that when you have ego that gets involved in a traumatic event, such as any case, whether it be Natalie, Heather, Brittany Wood, or anyone else, this is real life. This is someone's child. This is someone's sister, daughter, brother, whomever. And to further a narrative for your own personal gain is what really bothers me. And I have to, I don't have to, but I will publicly apologize to the people that tried to warn us about this. And some later thought, because we were talking to Tom or them, that we were part of that. We were never part of that, ever. But, where I will stand very tall is we, myself, our admins, our moderators, our community, we are the ones, like, we get the gold star because we have done the work. Like, right? Like, we have done the work. We are not just on groups talking around theorizing. We did the work. We're still doing the work. We hope that we can get justice and clear answers for Natalie's children and her family. But at the end of the day, my purpose here, and I'll say this very openly, and I've told everyone in our community, my purpose in this is to be Natalie's voice. She was trying to tell her story, and I'm going to make sure the world knows it by the time I'm done, and that is coming very soon. That's my purpose. I was never tied in with any of, like, none of us were ever tied in with any of these people. And it's like, to feel like it's a betrayal of sorts is really what it feels like. It feels like a betrayal because I just it's my inner child, I think, and that naivety of I grew up always thinking that if you're a good person, like, bad things won't happen to you. And then you get into the real world and you realize how shitty people are and how bad people are and the bad things that they want to do, and hiding behind this facade that they are good people. And it's like twofold. It breaks my heart, but it also pisses me off. And I won't stand for it. So, I will be 50 Shades of Erin Brockovich at any point in time if I need to be. And I'm not going to tolerate this because Natalie, her dignity, her soul, her spirit, and she deserved better, and she deserves better. I'm not going to tolerate it. And I will burn all of you down to the ground by the time I'm done. Mark my words on that. You picked the wrong one to go toe to toe with me and our community at that. We are not playing around. So anyone nefarious, I don't care how much money you think you have. I don't care how much connections you think that you have. In the end, the light will win. And Natalie's story is going to beam far and wide, and you can't do a thing about it. You can't do a thing about it but try to suppress it. And I sit very comfortably in knowing that. Very comfortably. There's power in truth, and there's power in her story. So, anything else that you guys wanted to talk about, like, while we're here?
No, I think you guys have done an amazing job of sharing Natalie's story and sharing the beginning, opening eyes to the beginning of what happened with Natalie, and then bringing it to current day, back and forth. So I'm just really grateful to be here with y'all. Not only are you being Natalie's voice, but you are giving Natalie, as she was telling her own story, you are giving her the platform, just like Jen was saying on the intro to this, when Natalie is speaking herself, you are giving her that platform. And I'm so grateful that you are allowing her to tell her story. And then where her story goes silent, you're able to pick it up for her. Um, so thank you so much for everything that you're doing, Jen.
Thank you for everything that you're doing for Heather Turner, and you for Brittany Wood, and all of
Absolutely.
the other families.
I agree with Mary. I think that, and I've said this many times, they thought these girls would be forgotten,
Yes, agreed.
and they did not account for people like us.
We're
Us and our
needed.
communities. That's exactly right. The communities. It has been
Hmm.
so powerful
Right.
to see Heather's community step up and say, we aren't going to do this anymore. We are electing a new sheriff in our county. I mean, it's like we're being on a panel, but there's so many people that are equal with us that are being their voices as well. And it's like the community is standing up. Each community, you know, Coweta County, Heard County, Troup County, Meriwether County, uh, you know, everybody around in the triangle. So many people are standing up saying, we're not going to tolerate this anymore. You know, we want the truth.
That's very, very well said. And in particular with Heard County, I don't live there, and it sounds kind of negative in the way that I say it, like I don't care, like because I don't live there, but all the people that have been afraid to speak up about things that they know, I'll speak up for them. This is their home. These are their counties. They know that something with Natalie's case is not right. They have given testimonial behind the scenes, in front of the scenes, and it's time to hold those with power responsible. That is their responsibility. And again, when you get back to that word ego, sometimes that ego needs to get checked at the front door. And none of these people are trash. They were loved. Weren't perfect. No one is, but they were people.
You're exactly right. They were daughters. They were sisters.
They were mothers. They were all mothers.
That's right. They were mothers. They were. I mean, it's like this is no game. You know, there's so much emotion, and it just you're right. It's time for the people who took an oath to protect and serve to do the right thing and check the egos at the door. I stand with you all day long on that. Very powerful statement. Thank you, Jen.
Of course. Well, that's all I have. I just want to say thank you to everyone here, Bermuda Triangle of the South, everyone that's tuned in. I appreciate you hearing this out. I think it needed to be said to put it in the coffin where it belongs. I don't want to entertain these people anymore. They're not going to get any more of my energy. They're not going to get any more of our community's energy. And I fully expect them to resurface at some point in time. And, in the slight chance that they're not nefarious and that they're good, take this as a lesson. This is not how to do things to people that genuinely care. Be a good person, do better, lead better, lead with empathy, and to anyone corrupt, if they are nefarious. We're not dumb. We're not just piddling around. We know we're very smart, and there are a lot of people that are very smart in various ways, whether they're local or whether they're executives or whether they're former law enforcement or whatever. Good people unite, and that's what you should be very afraid of. So, all right, everyone. Well, thank you.
Everybody have a good Easter
Thanks,
weekend.
Jen. Thanks, Mary.
Yes, happy Easter.
Yeah.
Happy Easter. Have a nice weekend, everyone. Thank you so much.
Thanks, everybody.
Bye.
Bye.